Hi, Simon Chapple here. I'm the Quit Alcohol Coach. Today I wanted to talk about whether you grieve when you stop drinking. Sounds like a strange question, but many people experience an emotional roller coaster after they quit alcohol, and it can feel very similar to the process of grief. And it's really important that we pay attention to what's going on. I like to describe it similar to when somebody calls my phone. Who does that these days? Nobody calls. Everybody sends a text or a message using one of the social networking apps. Who does that? Well, the feelings of grief and the emotions associated with it, to me, they were a bit like somebody trying to get my attention through a phone call. And I didn't want to hear it. I continued avoiding it because I knew that there was something uncomfortable on the end of that line. And to get through the process of grieving that follows in many cases after we quit drinking, it's a case of picking up the phone and listening to what's going on and actually paying attention rather than waiting for them to send a message, rather than waiting for them to call back. We need to stop avoiding. We need to start responding, start listening and paying attention to what's going on within ourselves. Now, when you quit any type of addiction, it can follow that you go through the different stages of grieving. Thankfully, it's not like grieving a death. It doesn't stay with us forever. We can move through it fairly quickly. And there are 5 stages that we go through. Now, the first stage is denial. We can feel like this just isn't happening. Why do I need to quit? Why is this happening to me? You're full of questions and you really don't believe that you have to make this change. And when we stay in a place of denial, it can keep us stuck. And we start to look for alternatives and ways to get around the problem. We can feel really angry. And that's the second phase of grief. The anger can lead to really strong emotions and it can cause us to lash out at people. We can start blaming others as we move through the anger phase. So from the start, we've gone through denial, we've gone through anger, and then we can start bargaining, which is the next stage of grief. And when we bargain, we might try and moderate our drinking. We might try and get other people to tell us that it's okay to drink. We avoid taking responsibility for our own behavior while we're stuck in the phase of bargaining. And it can keep us exactly where we were, stuck in the trap of alcohol abuse, drinking on a daily basis. I've seen people in the bargaining phase where they've decided that actually I'm okay to drink at the weekends, or I'm not drinking as much as the hobo in the local parks. So it's okay for me to keep drinking because I'm not as bad as them. But that's not the case. You've identified that there's a problem. We need to break free. We need to go through the stages of grief and come out the other side feeling happy and at peace in our life. The next phase is depression, where you can feel really down, really sad, and you might even feel a sense of blame or shame, either of yourself or of other people, before you move to the final stage, which is acceptance. And when you can get to a stage of acceptance, you're finding yourself in a place where you feel okay with exactly who you are. You've started to come out on the other side of the uncomfortable process that follows in many cases when people quit drinking. And acceptance is about accepting all the parts of us as we are and being okay with exactly who we are as we are. Moving to a place of sobriety is all about answering that phone, starting to listen to your feelings and accepting yourself as okay, perfectly imperfect, and working on yourself, moving to a place where you're going to improve. Your life is going to get so much better, and hearing everything that's on the other side of that phone call, moving through those stages of grief, and knowing that that's probably going to be part of what happens, part of your own process, and listening to the truth about yourself, actually accepting all the good and all the bad and being really honest. For example, if you're a person who judges other people, criticizes, and maybe lies sometimes, that's okay if you can accept it, because then you can start working on becoming radically honest. And there's a brilliant book called Radical Honesty that I would recommend you definitely check out. And when you get to that final stage, that stage of acceptance, you start to become whole, you start to become authentic. You start to feel your feelings. And a great tactic for feeling your feelings is to start naming them and labeling them. Use an emotion wheel. You can find one on Google, and actually identify your emotions, your feelings as they come up and as they change. And you'll find very quickly that you start to become really connected with who you are on the inside. You start to get curious about who you are. You start to understand more about yourself. And as you notice the feelings, you start to see them as signposts. I don't think there's anything such as bad or good feelings. All feelings are designed to tell us something. If we're feeling joyful, playful, or we're in awe of the world, it's probably our childhood side coming out, the beautiful side that still exists within us. Whereas if we feel a sense of anger or sadness, again, it's telling us something. Maybe something in our life needs to change. Maybe we need to put some boundaries in place or speak openly with someone about their behavior or the way that they've spoken to us or treated us. Pay attention to those feelings. And the best way to do that is by labeling them. And as you go through any grieving process after you've quit alcohol, absolutely pay attention to each and every feeling that comes up. And also remind yourself that this is part of the journey to healing. So when it feels uncomfortable, know that that's okay because it's healing. Imagine if you had a broken leg. There's going to be times when it's healing that it hurts, that it feels really, really sore. But you know that that's part of the stages of healing and that ultimately it's there to help you. So pay attention to that and almost welcome it in, invite it in, and thank it for being with you. Try to never push away your feelings or suppress your emotions, because when you do that, we don't process them fully. They stay within us and they come back to bite us. They cause us future pain. Whereas if you can work through them, you'll come out the other side and you'll reach a place of acceptance. But even knowing that there are stages of grief that generally follow when you quit alcohol is going to help to set you up for success. Some people move very, very quickly through these phases. Some people can move to acceptance almost immediately, while others have to go through each and every step on the process. And I think it's also really important to understand that there may be cases where something else, something deeper is going on. And I've spoken about this in a number of my other videos, but in many cases, when we turn to addictions, it's because there's issues that stem from our past, usually our childhood, and it can be things around trauma or childhood emotional neglect. And you might be thinking, my childhood was perfect, but I almost guarantee that there probably has been some form of emotional neglect if you can't recognize anything and you find yourself drawn towards addictive or compulsive behavior. Read up on it. I'm actually writing a book about it myself at the moment because it comes up time and time again. It can be a covert type of neglect, and it's usually not done with any type of intention. It doesn't mean that our parents don't love us or didn't love us. It's simply substandard parenting. They didn't know any better. When we have children, they don't give us a manual that tells us how to be perfect parents. And there's often just areas where they drop the ball and it can cause emotional neglect. And that can make us lean towards addictive behavior. So if you find yourself struggling to move through any stages of grieving, or you're finding that emotions are hanging around with you for a long, long time, maybe 2 or 3 months after you've quit drinking, if you're still feeling sad or angry or carrying a sense of shame or guilt, then the chances are you need to be looking further back and doing some work around emotional neglect or trauma from your childhood. But just knowing that there are stages of grief that you move through when you let go of anything that you've done for a long time, that you held beliefs that it added some kind of value or benefit to your life, you will go through a grieving process usually. And it's okay. That's perfectly fine. Allow yourself the space and the mental bandwidth to be able to grieve it. Talk to the people around you. Tell them that you're likely to go through this process, that you need them there to support you. Write it down in your journal. Make sure that you've got alternative support mechanisms in place that you can turn to when things feel tough. For example, join a Facebook community like mine so you can connect with people who are on the same journey. Make sure you've got alternative alcohol-free drinks so you've got something nice to drink at the times you used to have alcohol. And also try and find something that's going to motivate you. Maybe it's watching videos like this, reading books like mine, or joining a quit alcohol program like the one that I run at joinbesober.com. All of those things are going to help set you up for success. And journaling on a daily basis is highly recommended. It can feel like a pain in the butt at first, but it's going to help you get through those different stages in the grieving process and that emotional roller coaster that we can experience in the first few weeks and the first couple of months after we quit. But before long, your sleep starts to get better, your mental state stabilizes, and you start to feel happier and kind of mentally tougher, able to cope with things that potentially would have phased you in the past. Notice all of this. If you're writing it down, you're going to be gathering the data, and that data can really serve you. It's also worth using a mood tracking app as well. If you're a member of my Quit Drinking program, we've got a built-in mood and sleep tracking app that will help you. And pay attention to your victories and celebrate them. Not just the days that you remain alcohol free, but paying attention when you're able to sit with a craving and allow it to pass and know that you've got the power, you've got the strength. When you're able to use one of the tactics that I share in my other videos to get through any emotional discomfort or challenging feelings, celebrate those things. The first time you go out socially without drinking, being able to come out publicly that you don't drink anymore. All of these things are massive. And this is a huge life change. So yes, there are some stages of grieving that usually come fairly early on in the process when you kind of have that realization that I can't drink. This is something that I shouldn't be doing. But you want to be moving to a place where you don't feel that you can't have a drink. You move to a place where you don't want to drink. This is a lifestyle choice. I can take a drink anytime I want, but I don't want to, and I never will want to, because it's made such a difference to my life. It's changed my life in so many amazing ways. It's changed my relationships with my wife and my son, my career, my health, my friendships, my skin, you name it, it's changed for the better. And when you start to pay attention to those things and notice all the great changes that are happening in your life, you become really motivated. So try and immerse yourself in sobriety as if it's some kind of new hobby or new activity that you're taking part in, and get excited about it, because the more excited and motivated you are, the easier it is to get through those different stages of grieving. You'll move through them quicker and you'll be able to weaken them and soften them. But set yourself up for success by recognizing the different stages and knowing that you're fully equipped to move through them with all of the tools that are available. And if you need to educate yourself further, use the videos on my YouTube channel to ensure you've got what you need. And if you need extra help, join my program at joinbesober.com.